I've been in the car business 30 years. 10 years ago, I discovered third-party lead generation and thought I had found the holy grail of marketing. Perfectly predictable costs of customer acquisition. Combine that with non-prime and a client that is not price-focused, and you have a recipe for some large, scalable profits. But alas, all good things must come to an end, and the glory days of third-party lead generation are dead. Albeit it was a slow, steady, and painful death, but dead and gone they are. Third-party lead generation is still relevant and prevalent, but the squeeze is on, and those predictable outcomes are far less appetizing. I remember the very early years of non-prime, before everyone and their brother figured it out, and there was business and profits in it. We had one of our locations in a relatively small market before everything moved online. There was still newspaper advertising that worked. We used direct mail flyers as a way to have our sales events. We would send out 50,000 flyers, 2-color, 1-page, 8.5 by 11, cheap-ass, crappy flyer, and sell 25 cars plus on a weekend, all with good gross. It was literally like shooting fish in a barrel. But you know what happened? Other dealers started to figure it out. The market got more crowded, the customer more educated. And pretty soon, it took 500,000 8-page full-color flyers to have the same effect as those 50,000 did. And not long after that, flyers just didn't pay. Then came third-party leads. I started buying third-party leads 11 years ago. At the time, it was a new thing. An internet startup was using generic digital ads to generate non-prime leads and reselling them to dealers. The internet startup, a lead generation company, having the knowledge and ability to create leads at a much lower cost than an individual dealer could. At the time, I could buy leads at roughly $100 each and convert those leads at 15 to 20%. A cost of customer acquisition between $500 and $700 a deal. Combine that with the fact that they were non-prime finance leads with a healthy average gross, and it was a pretty sweet deal. Online third-party lead generation grew very quickly as dealers who specialized in non-prime discovered it. So what happens when demand goes up? Well, the cost goes up. Just like those flyers in the old days when it took 500,000 flyers to do what 50,000 did a few years before, now it takes 500 leads to do what 100 leads used to do, and it isn't getting any better. The trend of third-party lead generation is a trend to a higher cost of customer acquisition. What used to be a $500 cost of customer acquisition is now $2,500 and not sustainable. If you think about it, those costs are really being borne by lower profits for the dealer and also being passed on to the consumer. Dealers and credit-challenged customers are bearing the cost of large internet-based lead generation companies flooding the internet with highly specialized marketing and charging a fortune for it. Dealers are having their margins squeezed by third-party lead generation companies, and credit-challenged customers are paying inflated prices to support the high cost of customer acquisition. That is the reality now. The question is, why should you care? If you're a dealer and you're buying third-party leads and you're making money, why should you care if the customer has to pay more? That's fair. But what you should care about are the hidden issues, the icebergs out there in the dark, the ones that will sink your ship. That's what you should care about. Ask yourself this: what has been the trend in your conversion rates over the last 5 years? How has that hurt your cost of customer acquisition? Are you paying more than you did before, and do you think that trend will continue? The reality is that there is no way for it to go except for the cost of customer acquisition to keep going up. Why? Because more and more lead generation companies are entering the market. Good ones, bad ones, horrible ones, but lots and lots. New ones popping up daily, like weeds. Let's face it, the internet is endless, but the prospect base is limited. And more companies seeking out those leads means less quality leads go around. Add to that the fact that as more and more dealers enter the non-prime space, demand will go up. I may not be a genius, but even I can tell you that as more lead generation companies enter the market and more dealers jump on board to buy leads, the cost of customer acquisition will continue to rise until it begins to squeeze dealers out of the market. If you're too dependent on those third-party leads, you could be one of them. But guess what? That's not really the worst of it. There are other pretty significant issues associated with third-party leads. How about the simple fact that you don't know what the lead generation company is saying in order to generate those leads? What if what they're saying is against the law? Unethical. I saw an ad the other day on the internet that said there were 1,500 new Ford trucks parked in an airport parking lot that had to be sold. I'm pretty sure that's not true. I also saw an ad that said the customer could get $5,000 back on their loan, guaranteed. I'm pretty sure I know a few banks that don't allow that. How about no credit check needed? 0% loans for bad credit. The misleading messages are endless, and maybe you don't care and it's not your problem. And maybe you're right, but maybe, just maybe, those misleading ads are getting connected to your brand when your staff are reaching out to convert them. After all, these prospects have not converted from your website, from your messaging. For all you know, they want to buy a Lamborghini for $200 a month, and then when you don't have one or can't supply one under those terms, the customer feels like they've been lied to by you. The reality is that yes, the third-party lead company cannot exist unless you have some level of success with their product. It would be a pretty short relationship if you didn't convert any. But the mission of the third-party lead company is to maximize profit by driving down the cost of lead acquisition while maintaining or increasing the cost of the dealer. The quality of the lead is tied to the cost of generating that lead. If I want to lower the cost of generating a lead, I just widen my messaging to include lower quality leads. I keep doing that until dealers complain, and then I know where the line is. Then I keep moving it, just a bit, while some dealers jump off and others in a growing market jump on. The bottom line is this: third-party lead generation can still be a viable part of any marketing budget, particularly in the non-prime space. But the heydays of cheap leads and half-decent conversion rates are long gone, and the trend isn't looking good. Better start planning for a life without third-party lead generation, or look at dying a slow death while you get the revenue slowly sucked out of you over the next few years. Pretty soon, those third-party lead generation companies will have taken enough money from you to open their own locations and go direct to the consumer. Better think about generating your own prospects if you want to be around to compete. Good luck and good selling.